Howdy, and welcome to the Research Minute Podcast. I'm your host, David Butler. This is the podcast that takes university research from the campus and we bring it to the community. Today, as our guest, is Associate Professor Seth Jones from the Department of Educational Leadership at Middle Tennessee State University. Welcome to the podcast, Seth.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, so how long have you been at Middle Tennessee State University as a professor?
I started in August of 2016. So
Okay.
I guess that's 9 years now, and it was my first faculty position.
So, Educational Leadership Department, tell us what that actually means.
So educational leadership in the education world usually refers to the people that are in leadership positions in public education. So think principals, district level leaders, curriculum supervisors, maybe even state level leaders, those kinds of things. Superintendents, exactly.
Okay.
So we definitely have those kinds of faculty and those kinds of programs. We have programs at the graduate level where, people can train to become principals or district level leaders, superintendents, those kinds of things. So we have what people often think of as educational leadership.
So tell us, so you've been here 16 years?
Just under 10 years.
Just under 10 years, I'm sorry, yes.
Yep.
It was 16, that was it. So you've been here a while. Walk us your pathway from where you were born, where you were raised, your interest as a kid, what you were interested in, and how you made your way to the university 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much a Southern kid. I was born in Alabama, but my dad quickly joined the Air Force. So in my early years, we moved a lot, but both of my parents are from Alabama. So even though we moved a lot, I was in a house of two Southerners. So I lived in Texas for a little bit, lived in Hawaii, lived in Florida as my dad kind of moved around from base to base. He left the Air Force. We moved to Tennessee around the time I was entering kindergarten. Other than a few years, I pretty much lived in Tennessee since then.
Okay, so you weren't a military brat, meaning going to military schools?
Nope.
Never
Went to a DOD school. Yeah, never went to school internationally or anything like that.
Okay.
By the time I was in kindergarten, my dad was out of the Air Force, and so I actually started kindergarten in Nashville. We were living in Nashville.
Okay.
Out in Antioch, but then we quickly moved to Southeast Tennessee. And that's really where when I think about kind of where I was raised, I was raised in rural Southeast Tennessee on the Ocoee River. It's a whitewater river where the 1996 Olympic kayaking events were held. So
if you drive that road, you'll come across and you see all the Olympic flags
Center,
and everything.
Yeah. I was in early high school when that happened. So, I got to be
exciting.
a part of the opening ceremonies and, all of that. I think my deepest sort of identity in terms of where I grew up is rural Southeast Tennessee. That's kind of my place. I went to Polk County High School. Sort of as I finished high school, I thought that I would be an engineer. I was kind of curious. I liked to sort of tinker and build stuff, but not the city or suburban version. I wasn't tinkering and building, computers and stuff like that. It was, building stuff out on a farm or, I worked for farmers in summer and stuff.
Just
like
fixing
that.
mechanical things.
Yeah, fixing stuff, working on my own truck. My dad owned an auto shop, so working in his shop some, learning things. Always curious about how
mechanically
things
inclined.
worked. Yeah. So I thought I was going to be an engineer, got interested in attending Tennessee Tech University and loved it there, but pretty quickly, actually before I even started classes, the summer before I started classes, I decided I'm actually not sure I want to be an engineer. I think I want to be an educator. So I kind of switched my major. It was so late that I ended up my whole first year, I lived in the engineering dorm, but I had switched to secondary education, decided I want to be a math teacher, high school math teacher. Okay. So I went through that path in undergraduate. It all made sense to me.
And didn't change majors? Besides right before you started?
Yeah. I stayed secondary ed math the whole way through. I knew I wanted to be an educator. I played high school sports, so I liked the idea of kind of having a profession where I got to help people. I got to work with young kids. I got to coach. I got to teach.
What sports did you play?
I played I played a bunch of sports as a kid. Once I got to high school, I played football in high school.
Okay, and what position did you play?
In high school, it was a small rural school, so it was sort of
sounds like a qualifier.
Whatever is needed. I was kind of like never left the field.
I was quarterback. I snapped the ball to myself.
That's exactly.
I was wide receiver. I played offense and defense.
That's the qualifier because I did play quarterback. I did play, linebacker, but at any other school, I wouldn't have played any of those positions. Right. Got married while I was an undergraduate student there, graduated in 2004, started teaching high school.
And where did you teach high school?
My first job was near Cookeville, Upperman High School.
Okay.
My wife
Not too far from Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, that's right. It's just down the road. We were actually living in on-campus housing. She was still in school, and I was driving over to Upperman High School, coached football there, taught math. Really loved it. Great first-year place to be. And then probably about 5 years into it, I just started to get this kind of discontent at feeling like I didn't know enough to really help these students I was trying to help. Doing fine. I think my classes were going well, but just a growing recognition that I don't really understand enough about them or enough about learning to really, everywhere I'd go to kind of answer my questions, I wasn't satisfied with the answers I was hearing. So that's where I got interested in some kind of graduate school, honestly not really knowing what graduate school was or what I was getting myself into.
And you didn't come from a family of folks sitting around going to graduate school,
Nope.
sitting around talking?
Nope.
So
that's actually, that's
so you didn't have a model or anyone to emulate or follow?
I didn't have a model. My, grandfather was a pastor, and he had graduate degrees.
From seminary school?
From seminary schools and things like that. Yeah, no one in my family really worked in that kind of realm. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. I just sort of thought of it as a path to help me get answers to these really, really hard issues I was experiencing in the classroom that I couldn't find answers to. And that I didn't want to be a school administrator, but I wanted to grow professionally. Okay. And sadly, there just aren't very many paths for professional growth that don't lead to school administrators. So it was also kind of a way to find a path of professional growth.
And you weren't a 5A football coach winning national champions?
Well, that's it. Yeah. So that was the other thing. Like, I really wanted to grow on the education side. And once I realized, I don't think I want to be a head football coach,
Which is a career path all its own.
That's right. It's its own thing. That's right. I won't go into the details of how I kind of stumbled my way into graduate school, not really knowing what I was getting into. But the short of it is that I ended up leaving my job at Cleveland High School around the time of the Great Recession in 2009. My family, we had 2 kids at this point. We moved to Nashville for me to start graduate school at Vanderbilt. And I was there from 2009 to 2015. Actually, just before 2015.
So you went straight to a PhD program?
Well, no, I actually went into a master's program. Okay. And in that first year, my master's program was being funded through a GA with a faculty member there named Rich Lair. And
as a graduate assistant. So that means you got a little bit of stipend.
That's right.
Had your
That's
tuition
right. It paid my tuition, gave me a little bit of stipend.
In return for some
and I was working on a research project that he had. And pretty quickly, that was going well. And I really loved the work and started in my first semester in the master's program, which is a 1-year master's degree. We started talking about PhD program, and I applied, got accepted, sort of.
But you had a model and a mentor to encourage you, since you didn't have any other knowledge of how that works.
He still is the model and mentor of what that can look like. And so Vanderbilt, they really supported me a lot in my PhD program. And I worked on a research project my whole time there where we were in middle schools trying to understand how to improve teaching and learning around data and statistics in middle school math classes. Okay.
So not just math in general, but data and
statistics specifically.
How do they apply math to understand the world or get jobs or anything, not just abstractly?
That's right. Very applied, always asking real questions about the world, using real data about the world, and trying to understand how to use that data. And then when I finished at Vanderbilt, that was a very, very formative time for me. It really shaped who I thought I was professionally. It helped me see my interests in engineering and building things and my interests in education could kind of live together to where I could have a career building educational systems and doing research on them, much in the same way an engineer, has a career in trying to build something to solve a problem and studying it. So that's how I think about it.
So it brought your early passion of engineering and education and merged them in a way that made you feel more whole. Yeah,
merged them together in a way that made sense to me, to where I didn't feel like I had to pick one or the other. And then pretty quickly, a job opened up here. Actually, I applied to 2 different jobs here. I was really interested in MTSU and what was going on here. But also, I spent most of my life in Tennessee, so I was interested in being back in Tennessee.
Right.
All those things seem to come together here at MTSU. So I'm grateful that in August 2016, my family moved back to this area and I started working here.
Okay. Well, that's great. So tell us about your research from August 2016 to the present. What are your research interests? Where is your passion? How does your engineering and your love of education and math, tell us how those synergistic items come together and what you're passionate about on the research side.
Yeah. So I think to get the best answer to that, there's two parts to it. The sort of content focus of my research, what am I trying to make better? And the methodological focus or the methods focus, or what am I actually doing to try to make it better?
Sure.
Those two things. So on the content side, I got so interested in how people learn about data and how to think with data. And just the more that I learned about how hard it is to think with data, the more I got interested in continuing to work on that. So coming out of graduate school, that content focus immediately was almost the exact same. I was still thinking about math classes, middle school math classes. What kinds of things can you do with these kids and teachers to help the teaching get better? Because it's a topic that is super relevant, super important. Data is everywhere. Jobs like data scientist have been invented since the last 15 years or so. Now, in the classrooms where I was doing my research, it was mostly quantitative data we're working with. And the real challenge with that, and I'm going to tie it to something that everyone experienced that I think made this challenge so visible, it's always changing. The word people use for that is variability. That if I ask the question, how many leaves does that tree have? The answer to that changes pretty much every day.
Yes.
If I wanted to count every leaf on it, from the time I started to the time I ended, the answer would be different. Right. And so,
like when the police officer pulls you over, how fast were you going?
Yeah.
Well, when you pulled me over, I was going 55.
That's right.
I was going 85 when you clocked me, but it was variable data.
It changes. So the real problem that got me interested in this is, how can you ever really answer any question if the answer is constantly changing? Because I think that the life experience that we have all had recently was around the COVID pandemic. And if you think about it, so much of the kind of public disagreement about what was happening, what we think will happen in the future, what we think we ought to do in response to that, so much of that was changing so fast that just generally most of us didn't have the tools to know how to think about that change. So you ended up with two options. One, you could either point to the fact that the prediction was wrong, and you could say, see, those people don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
The second option was, you people that aren't experts just need to trust what they're saying. A lot of people didn't really have a whole lot of tools to think about the data itself. And it was wildly variable, things changing all the time.
Right.
And so that's the kind of data that I work with in schools and trying to help kids develop the ideas and the tools and the techniques to make sense of all of that messy data. Sometimes in my world, it's referred to as messy data. How do you teach people to be able to do more than just throw your hands up and say, who knows? So that's the content focus. And then the methods focus, like how I actually do my work, is a type of research called design-based research. And what that means is
DBR.
You got
it. We know it has to be an acronym.
It has to be an acronym.
So
DBR.
now when he says DBR, we know what it is. Design-based research.
And so basically what that means is it is an engineering way of thinking about this problem that, okay, this is a hard idea to learn. There's not a lot of good support for teachers to know how to teach it, which means that students often aren't getting a lot of good learning experiences around it. So how can I think of that as a design challenge and create something, actually build something that helps solve that problem? So those some things are usually, curriculum tools, things like lessons or investigations, teacher tools and teacher learning experiences, software tools, technology, digital technology, is a really important resource that we have for making sense of data. So how can I create software tools that are accessible to a 6th grade kid that they could actually use so that once they get to, let's say, the data science program here at MTSU, they kind of know what the foundational principles are of the things they're going to be learning here. So that's kind of brought those two interests together. I really enjoy the process of identifying that problem in the classroom. And of course, the problems end up being much more specific than just general data.
Right.
And then with my team asking, all right, so what do you think we could actually do that would help students understand this better, or that would help a teacher understand it better so they could teach it better? And then the next step is, all right, what kind of research would we need to do? What kind of data would we actually need to collect in order to know whether we are actually helping anybody at all? And so of course that always ends up being iterative. Early on, you learn that you were wrong more than you were right.
Yes.
And so then you kind of tweak and revise, and next semester, let's try it again. And then it's a little bit better and a little bit better. And then hopefully at some point you actually end up with some tools that are really helpful to teachers and students that they can use.
Failure's the best lesson.
That's right.
All the way through.
Making sense of the world with data is just such an important, it really has become a basic literacy. Almost.
And we went from, I think, being important and good to have to almost a requirement to succeed.
Yeah.
The way things are changing.
That's right. A requirement to succeed. So there's the workforce side. But I think also it's important to recognize that even if someone, never ends up in a job as a data scientist or data analyst or AI something, that even just understanding how to use data to make claims is important for just a citizen in the United States, that we're all being asked to vote. We're all being asked to have opinions and positions on policy recommendations, on, I could go down a list of all the things we're being asked to be knowledgeable about so that we can, as informed citizens, vote and make decisions. Almost all of those issues, the arguments, the competing arguments people are making, they're using data to make those arguments. So if I can't myself think well with data, then I can't really even participate in that.
Right. You choose base whoever's loudest, whoever looks the best,
that's right. So,
whoever compels you.
So there's the workforce development, but then there's also just, we need most people to be able to think in this way.
Yes.
Just like we need most people to be able to read and write, even if you're never going to be an author. That's how I think about the
basic competencies all the way through.
And that's why I think it's worth investing in from the federal government, that this is a hard problem. And it just is a fact that in K-12 education, there just are not enough good opportunities to learn about data. And so it is something that is not only worth investing in, that actually needs strategic investment to make it better.
Yeah, and if you think about it, public dollars supporting teachers, and as you said, the byproduct is competent students with data, benefits the economy downstream. Every company that's looking to hire someone with these skill sets, you pay for it now, they come out 3, 5, 10 years, they're now contributing to that company, to the economy. So it's a downstream cost where you're basically building human infrastructure.
That's it.
We put it in roads, it also need to put it in people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's definitely true. Investing in our people. Like I said, I work in middle schools mostly, so I think of it as investing in these kids so that, one day they're equipped to live, productive, healthy, thriving lives.
And can live the American dream.
Yeah. I think about, this is a phrase that not many people use, but I think about human flourishing a lot in my work. That when the work is hard and I ask myself, why am I doing this?
Right.
I think I want to be in a profession where even if it's in ways that I never really get to see the end fruit of it, that I'm contributing to human flourishing, to communities and to people that are thriving and flourishing and growing and healthy.
Well, thank you for taking the time today to meet with me and talk about all these interesting topics and your research and your journey from your hometown and your home in the southeast part of the state and sort of all the way back here to the middle part of the state.
Yeah, David, thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
Yeah,
I had a great time.
I want to thank our guest, Seth Jones, for joining us on the Research Minute podcast. Stay tuned for exciting new episodes coming up.